Well, hey everybody, how's it going? It's Josh Carpo. I received a question the other day, and it's from Manufactured Reality, and he asks me, "What does your ideal world look like?" Basically, and I said I'd get back to you on that. I've been thinking about it for a couple days because I think that this is a question that too many people try to answer quickly. But I think it was a phenomenal question because considering I make a wide variety of videos, but some of them I tend to say, this is what's wrong, this is what's wrong. And it's my obligation, if I'm going to say what's wrong and tell people not to complain, to at least have my own idea of what the world should look like. And I do. But it's very complicated. And we have to look at two different sides to it. First, there's the ideal world, how the world would look if it had developed properly in my eyes. If the people had come along a different path than we have. But that's speculation and pointless pondering because the situation we have is what it is right now. So if I was going to say what's the ideal society, I would want to give you an example of a way that we could go with our society today. Not, oh, this would be great if humans had, remained in touch with the earth and that we were all still farming and, we understood everything. That's not the reality we live in. So, I am obligated to find an actual, path to this solution. But I guess I'm just going to lay this out as best I can. We have to think about politics, we have to think about religion, and we have to think about community. Now I'm going to start with religion, because it seems to be the biggest question people have is, where are we from, where are we going? So, in some people's minds, the ideal world may be that we all know our purpose, or that we all know our path, and that we all know why we're here and where we're going. I don't think that that's really my approach, only because I see that if we had all the answers, we wouldn't be seeking as much as we seek. In other words, it's not knowing that keeps us moving forward. It's not knowing that creates that sense of wonder and excitement. It's like a guy said on a video the other day. It was "The World I Know" by Collective Soul. It's about a guy who was thinking about committing suicide and stayed up on the ledge, and a bird landed on his arm, and he realized and looked around and saw the world for what it really was. And somebody left a comment that said, he might as well jump. There's nothing worth living for. You live, you're born, you work, and you die. And I said, well, you obviously don't feel that way, or else you would have jumped yourself. You're here commenting, you're being part of society. So no matter how cynical and negative we sound, here we are. Even when life's rough, we struggle through it. And I think that the struggle is part of the path. So having the answers is not part of my ideal world. I guess it would be more of being able to somewhat agree on the basics, but still have our own beliefs and our own belief systems and our own thought patterns that relate to the area we live in our environment. In other words, we're never going to, have a one world religion, one world government. It's never going to work. People are too different. And so what path do we take? I don't know. Let's go into politics for a second, because I am going to bring all this together, I hope. The political system is one of the most difficult arenas to reconcile with society, because we need people to lead us. It's human nature. Now, people disagree with that. That's fine. I know a lot of folks out there believe that humans can govern themselves just fine, but I don't agree, because every community throughout history has had a leader. Every pack in nature has an alpha male, And it's not about power or control for them. It's about keeping things in order, keeping people in order. So nobody wants to look to authority because we feel like nobody should have authority over us. But we're forced through society to give authority to certain people, to control others that are doing things that we don't like. So abandoning a police force, abandoning, any form of governing body is not going to bring us closer. So we have to figure out how to make the politics work. One guy said to me the other day that we should just, polygraph everybody that goes into office and start eliminating secret societies and forcing people, making it illegal to join a secret society. And I'm just like, this is impossible. This is the hardest part, is we're trying to invade others' rights in order to get our rights back. And it's like a catch-22. Somebody is always going to get stepped on. In other words, no matter what type of a system that you build for everyone, there's always going to be a person who's going to disagree with it. So that's the power of majority rule, and that's how we came to democracy, which is still a horrible form of government, but still the best that's been tried, as far as some people are concerned. But anyway, democracy isn't always the best. It doesn't always work the best, especially when you have a 51-49% vote. But it's what we've come up with for now. But every society, even the smallest societies, have had rules and leaders, rules to abide by. It's like the video I made the other day about the rooster crowing. Various opinions on it. Some people say, get rid of that rooster, he shouldn't be in the city. Other people say we should have the right to have animals, wherever we want, because it's freedom. Then we have the idea of community, where people sleep different hours, and on and on. There's always somebody who's put out by the way that we live. So, is there an ideal form of government that will help everyone to be happy? No. The best we can do is use our heads, because the issues that we vote on and the issues that we find important are put into society's head by the media, and we know this. When you hear people arguing about what's going on with ISIS or in another country somewhere, two people arguing from the same, totally different points, but based on the same information received by the same sources, it makes it difficult to know what's going on in the rest of the world, and we don't even know what's going on in our own backyards. So that's the first step to my ideal society, is to act in the community. In other words, when somebody says, what are you doing to help the world? Say, well, I pick up garbage when I go to the park. I say hi to my neighbors. I help people when they need it. It's about leading by example, because people only follow an example if it's a direct example they can see someone doing in front of them. We can't have a leader just suggest this is how to do things. So, as far as government, I guess that's really an issue that I have to set aside for a minute. But so religion and politics, we have democracy, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But the Inuits, I believe, this is a story I heard, I don't know if it's true, but I was told that hundreds of years ago, when the Inuits would have a problem with the sociopath in their society, a person who took advantage. Sociopathic tendencies occur in about 1% of the population, maybe 2%. And this has been consistent throughout history. These are usually the people who end up taking control. And these are the people who oppress others. And when they would find one in their society, a person like that, they would go on a hunt, and they would walk to the edge of the cliff, and they would push the person off the cliff. It sounds like an abrupt solution, but when you have a community that tightly knit, with food so scarce, where every moment counts, you can't have one person screwing around. And you can't even afford to have 1% of the people screwing around. In today's society, it's okay, the lackeys, the losers, the mooches, the ones sucking off the system. You know, I'm not talking about people that need help. I'm talking about those who just go through life abusing others and taking what they want and complaining about everything. These people, we need to figure out how to deal with them. You know, they're coming up with science now that's able to scan the brain and know so much more about us. That's invasive as far as I'm concerned. I don't believe in any type of Minority Report pre-crime idea or anything. And this is a tough point. It's an important point to me. This is a very difficult subject for me to actually get across, because what I'm saying in a nutshell in the first part of this video is that things are the way they are because of the way that humans have evolved, and evolved behaviors, structures to accommodate for the way that we live. And I know that sometimes I feel like people think that I'm the bad guy, like I'm standing up for those who oppress us. You know, I've had people get very angry at me for even saying, quit saying Illuminati and stuff like that. I mean it all in good intent and heart, because I'm not in denial that there are people that are going to take control of this world and that are running the system. What I'm trying to say is that we can sit and scream at them all day, but they're not going to hear us. All it's going to do is fluster us more. So the best we can do is act in our communities, and you know, just the old think globally, act locally. But it's not even that. It's think globally, act locally. Think locally, act homely. You know, understand your home. You know, a lot of people are great community people. You know, for example, you know, there's people who are great community leaders. They are looked up to by all their peers. They've done so well for themselves, and they give to donations to charities and all this. Then they come home and they beat their children. The most important examples that we can set are our immediate environment around the people. And it seems like a small impact, you know. We don't want to just influence our kids and friends and then let the rest of the world be chaos. But that's all we can do. That's really all we can do. When an issue big enough comes up, we deal with it. But I don't want to get too far off base here. You know, I'm saying that basically I don't know what the ideal political system would look like. I can admit that. And as far as the religious part, I don't believe that we will ever come to terms on what God is, or if there is a God, or if there's just a force or an energy. People are out there trying to convince others that one thing or another is true. And all the while, people don't want to hear it. What it really comes down to for me is not an issue of what's the one path. It's a matter of what makes you happy and what works with your lifestyle. You know, we all want to be happy. We all deserve to be happy. And so if you want to believe in the spaghetti monster, then so be it. Now, I know Christians oppose to that idea because they believe that there's only one God and that you either ask Jesus for forgiveness or you perish in hell. So that makes a very difficult discussion there. So in part of my ideal world, that type of dogmatic belief system would be gradually abolished, but not through forced abolishment, but through people finally realizing that it's not working for them anymore. And for that we have to see clearly, more clearly than we've been seeing, which means that each person has to be educated and aware of what's going on in the world. So we see in the modern day, we've got this idea that we know what's going on now, but I've watched the internet grow up into this, you know, platform to learn everything about the world, and yet we still don't have a clue. So it wasn't a solution. It was never about us agreeing or figuring out the truth. It's always been about humanity trying to justify what they think is true to others because they believed it for so long, or sometimes because they just know it's true. So I basically spent the first 15 minutes here saying absolutely nothing, and I know that. And I guess that's really the point, is that it's a very difficult thing to try to figure out a way for the world to live. I don't think there is one. I really don't. I don't think that there will ever be a one world culture, and I sure hope there isn't, because as much as we're trying to move towards connection and acceptance, the fact remains that there will always be a small faction who will want to break away and believe something different. And there will always be groups and societies that will form to try to find like-minded people. So, like the one guy's solution, making it illegal to be in a secret society, I mean, that's a completely unrealistic solution. And it's not going to change our government structure. Governments have always, basically it's the old, absolute power corrupts absolutely, and that's the way it is. So we can't change the way that we evolved, we can't change the history that we've had, and all we can do is look to tomorrow. So what's my solution? It's sad, but I don't have one, except for an imminent collapse of society. And then when I say that, I feel like I'm the guy who's the defeatist, or the one who's given up. I spent, 15 years of my life thinking that the world was coming to an end. I no longer believe that. I just believe that humanity in modern society is coming to an end. Peaks and troughs, the system, the cycles, the way that, we go. It's almost like we build ourselves up to a point and we crash. And there's people out there screaming that that everyone's going to die and the world population is going to go down. And there's others saying that there's people trying to depopulate the earth, and so there's people out there that are afraid that others are trying to get them. And as long as we have the ability for all of these major key figures in governments to suck the tax money out of the people, and then the people don't have any recourse of action to deal with that. For example, if you live in a small community and you're paying your taxes, taxes are a normal part of life. Every society's paid taxes. You pay taxes to your local county or whatever, let's say. And if the roads aren't getting done, if things aren't getting fixed, you go down there and you talk to the person in charge. This is back when people had to take accountability. Nowadays, they just hide behind, another figure, or, use Obama as a shield. All these people are always pointing the finger at the leaders and this and that, but it's a tightly woven system. The only way I can see out of the political problems that we have today is a complete collapse of the government structure, which would result in would be the result of a complete collapse of society, which could be something as simple as a solar flare taking out the grid. I have no doubt in my mind that sometime in the next 50 years we're going to have a major worldwide catastrophe, that people are going to have to look to their neighbors, and people are going to be looking to their government for help. Don't. So my ideal society, let's see if I can sum it up. I can't. I really can't. It would be one in which people accept one another for who they want to be, who they choose to be. And it would be one where people hold others accountable for the mistakes that they make. So I guess, to break it down, what I mean by that is that we stop closing our eyes when we see things wrong, and stop pretending that we know what's right and wrong. So my solution to this societal problem is a personal solution. I don't have any way to point and say the government should do this. I don't believe that we point and say that the companies should do this, corporations should do this. The reason why we're being taken advantage of is because we're allowing ourselves to be taken advantage of. Most Americans know this. We buy things we don't need. We don't get a simple cell phone. We want the latest iPhone or the coolest gadget or tablet. We want to buy things that are affordable, and we complain when the prices are too high. But then we complain because everybody buys everything from China. Meanwhile, China's become this major superpower. It's all consumerism. Everything comes down to consumerism, because if you're not buying into it, the system implodes upon itself. It's supply and demand. The world has always been supply and demand. There's always been a demand for knowledge. There's always been a demand for understanding of religion. There's always been a demand for politics to help people run their systems. And there has always been a demand for respect, but there's never been a demand for individuals to take accountability for their own lives. And so what it comes down to, basically, to me, is each person developing enough of a sense of knowledge about the world, not particular, not book learning, but experience and learning people. I think I've gained more insight by understanding people themselves, even through talking on YouTube, than I ever could from just thinking about it or reading about it. You have to deal with people and associate and see how people really think. So we don't make statements like all Muslims want Americans dead, or that all religious people are this, or all atheists are that. It's not about changing people's beliefs. I think that that's one of the biggest problems that we have, is trying to change each other rather than change ourselves and ask ourselves within, what do we want? And most importantly, to remember that if that want is based on ignorance and not being aware, that's our biggest downfall. It's that we think that we need and want things that we don't really need and want. And observing people, they blame the media for telling them these things. They blame the companies for the advertisements, the commercials. They blame everybody for trying to fool us. But we never take accountability and say, why are we allowing ourselves to be fooled? One of my favorite quotes is, "An honest man can never be cheated." And this is because the honest man doesn't try to get more than he wants. In other words, you hear people complain, "Oh, I lost my money in the stock market." I could care less, I could care less if you lost your whole life savings in the stock market. You're playing a game. You're trying to get more. And that more is always at the cost of the consumer or someone else. And once we realize this, that if we're taking more than our share, then others are suffering because of it. In all cases, it's just the way it is. It's the balance of energy. You think of money as energy. There's a flow. Money itself has nothing. We give it power. But the fact is we use it. And there are some people who, it's not about what they have, it's about how much money they have, the potential behind it. It's an energy. And they become obsessed about having money because they want to buy happiness, but they're not sure what they want to buy. And true happiness comes at the idea that you don't want any more than you need to survive, and that you enjoy life. So my ideal world would be a community where everyone contributes, but the communities are smaller. Yet we still have the intelligence to know how to make right decisions, so we're not thinking like making up answers to complex problems, but that's human nature. This has been a long way, I guess, of saying that I really don't know how we can actually make it into an ideal society the way I see it, with what we have right now. The tools that we've been given. I feel like we've run up to the cliff and we're just kind of like this, just about to fall, but not quite. But there's no way to reclaim that stance. And I could be totally wrong. There might be a way out of all this, and maybe one day we'll discover it. But I really think it starts with the individual. You, me, people. Because this isn't something that's going to change overnight. Our awareness of where we should be is not going to put us there. It's going to take us educating our children and them educating their children. Just remember how young the Industrial Revolution is in the computer age, and how far we've come in 20 years, let's say, with the internet. Now think about another 20. It's an amazing future to look forward to. And for me, life is all about just looking at things positively and waking up and embracing it, and not stressing, because there's no point in stressing. There's no point in worrying. It does nothing but cause problems, and stress and worry often cause people to think poorly and lash out at others. So, just love, right? If only it were that simple. So I guess that we as humans overcomplicate things. We make it seem like things are very hard for us and difficult. Sometimes times are hard. Sometimes we have pain, mental anguish. But this is all part of this circular, the cycle and the balance of life. I don't think that we can get rid of the negative, because without it there is no positive. And as far as the whole love and tolerance thing, it's great to preach, but we have to earn it. And we have to earn each other's respect through the way that we live our lives and our behavior and the way that we treat one another. You smile at the clerk when you're at the store. Say something nice to somebody. Don't frown, don't be mad, don't get upset with people you don't know just because you're having a bad day. Set an example. Smiles are contagious. There's these small things that make big impacts over time. We can do better, and I think that we are doing better, and we're getting there.